What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, and we are here with the pressure rankings for UFC 308. I do this video for every pay-per-view where I talk about every fighter on the card and how much pressure they are under, how desperately they need a win, or if they're not under as much pressure. I'll talk about that as well. I'll be comparing the matchups, which fighter's under more pressure. Also talking about how that could impact the fight maybe as well. But yeah, if you like this kind of style of video, tune in. I do this video the day before every pay-per-view card. But let me know what other videos you guys want to see on the channel. But apart from that, we're going to get into the video, starting off with the prelim opener, which is Renato versus Carlos Leal. Now, I would say pretty clearly Renato has more pressure going into this matchup. He's 22-1, considered still prospect at welterweight. He smoked Kevin Lee, impressive win over Brey battle, but since then, DeSantos decision and then Dalby decision in the last card. He's been fighting in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, the DeSantos fight was in Brazil, but he's been fighting a bit more in Abu Dhabi in Saudi Arabia. And he's under a bit of pressure because his last few fights have been kind of lackluster decisions. He was looking dominant. He was looking like a force that was not going to be dealt with very well by a lot of the top guys. I think everyone kind of thought Renato was going to be a top 15, top 10 guy at some point, especially after that win over Brey battle and the win over Kevin Lee where he just smoked him in a minute. But since then, he's looked kind of mid. His cardio hasn't been that good. He fails a lot of takedowns. How old is Renato? The man Renato. He's 33, so he really needs to get a move on. If he's going to have any chance of doing... There's pretty clearly he's not going to be a champ, but, if he's even going to make, the top 10, he's got to win this fight, and then he's got to get a high-ranked guy next, because he was going to fight Ruzabov, who, although he's not, a big name, he's someone who's, he fought Buckley. Ruzabov is a guy that can probably get you a ranked opponent, but Renato, if he loses here to Carlos Leal, who's a PFL fighter, stepping up on short notice, that's kind of, it's wraps for him. He's only got one loss on his record, but it's kind of washed for him if he loses. Carlos Leal, not too much pressure on him. He's making his debut as the PFL fighter here, stepping in on short notice against a guy that a lot of people consider pretty solid. And he's an underdog too, so no one's really expecting him to win. No one's expecting him to do that well. I think he's going to put up a solid test, but Renato, I think he's not only under pressure to win, but I think he needs to look a bit more impressive than he has in his last few fights. Against Dalby, if he goes to a controversial split decision against Carlos Leal, it's not going to be a very good look for him. So I definitely think Renato needs to get the win here and do it impressively. Anyway, let's move on though to the next fight. Ismael versus Bruno Silva. Now, Bruno Silva's under quite a bit of pressure because I believe he's 4-1 in his last 5. And he really needs a win. Also, Bruno Silva's getting up there in age. He's 35 years of age. Ismael Nadeyev, I would say there's a bit of pressure on him too. He is coming in. He's been re-signed to the UFC after a less than impressive first stint. And then he fought on the regional scene and even has losses on the regional scene. So it's not like he's just been a world beater outside the UFC. I am picking him to win because I just think Bruno Silva is on the wrong side of cooked. But Bruno Silva, since that Alex Pereira fight, getting finished by GM3 is just not a good look. You don't want to be getting finished by GM3, especially getting hurt by him. He looked pretty shit against Weidman. He smoked Tavares, but apart from that, he just hasn't looked very good. So Bruno Silva, I don't think he's all that. I think he's looking at getting cut here, honestly. If he loses this fight, the UFC probably will cut him. So yeah, he needs to win and keep his job, in my opinion. Nadeyev, he's probably just only really been re-signed because they wanted a guy whose name ends in a V to fight on the Abu Dhabi card. They're like, yeah, let's get Nadeyev back in. It wasn't even like he was stepping in for someone. They full booked this fight on a full camp. So I don't know what he's done. It's not like he's been beating a bunch of really high-level guys on the regional scene. So Nadeyev, it's interesting to see him back. I'm not all that excited for it. And if he loses, he might just get cut again. Maybe they give him another chance. But I think either of these guys kind of does need a win to keep their jobs. More so Bruno Silva, though. Anyway, bantamweight fight is between Farid Basharat and Victor Hugo. Well, it's no longer a bantamweight fight because Victor Hugo missed weight by an entire weight class. I assume Basharat was notified ahead of time because he ended up weighing in at 137. These guys, I saw Victor Hugo, I was 145.5. I was I could have sworn he's a bantamweight, but maybe this fight was just booked at featherweight to begin with. But no, it was booked at bantamweight. Victor Hugo rocks up to the scale at 145.5. Now, they must have agreed to a catch weight because, as I said, Basharat was also a couple pounds over. But bit of pressure on Victor Hugo. You don't want to be missing weight by an entire weight class and having to get like the entire weight agreed to change. There was another weight miss on the card too, another catch weight bout that they agreed to because I think it's like they're just not going to get... They don't want their fight cancelled on 308. Like, if you're fighting in the fucking Apex, I think a lot more guys are like, yeah, I'll cancel the fight. I don't think many guys are cancelling pay-per-view fights due to weight misses. They're like, yeah, I'll take your fucking money. Give me the cash, and I'll beat you up anyway. I think Basharat's going to win. I guess he's under a bit of pressure to keep the O. You know, he's an undefeated fighter, so I guess you want to keep that record undefeated. Victor Hugo, as I said, I mean, it's pressure on him now because, I mean, he's expected to lose. It's not like he's going to lose his job, but you never want to lose. You never want to miss weight by a lot, get in the UFC's bad books, and then lose, and then not look impressive at all. That is a surefire way for you to be on the short list of guys that are going to get cut. If you lose another fight after that, that's when they're like, oh, you missed weight and then lost, and then you lost another fight, yeah, get out of here. Now, Victor Hugo, I'm not saying he's like some journeyman bum. You know, he's 31. But yeah, you really don't want to be missing weight by that much. So this fight really had nothing on it. I guess it's got a bit more on it now. Basharat, undefeated, wants to keep the O. And Victor Hugo probably needs to have a good performance to make up for that weight miss. Anyway, Kennedy and Zuko versus Chris Barnett. Now, the pressure here is on Chris Barnett's arteries. That's where the real pressure is in this matchup. But both guys are kind of in need of a desperate win, in my opinion, because Kennedy and Zuko is losing too many fights recently. How many fights this guy lost recently? Kennedy and Zuko. He's losing a lot recently, in my opinion, and he's pulled out of a few fights. Oh no, he's just had 2 fights cancelled. This is his 3rd opponent, interestingly enough. He was scheduled to fight Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and he was scheduled to fight Justin Tafa. Both of those guys pulled out. And before that, but like he got KO'd by Dustin Jacoby. He got subbed by Devin Clark. Oh no, he subbed Devin Clark. Sorry, but he's on a 2-fight loss streak, and he most recently lost the decision to fucking OSP, which is a terrible look. So Kennedy and Zuko going up a weight class. That's always kind of like a last ditch effort to show that like, oh, I'm not going that well in my career. I better jump up a weight class and see if I can do something. Chris Barnett, he's just been out of the cage for ages. This is a fun fight. I'm not going to talk about this like it's some high-stakes matchup. But Chris Barnett, you know, he does want to get a win for sure. Get back in the fans' like kind of good graces, I guess. We're all going to love Chris Barnett. But you can't just keep up the gimmick of just being obese and then not win. Like, it's funny when you win while being obese and then you drink beers afterwards. But it's not that funny if you just be obese and lose. Then it's like, yeah, you're just fat. But Chris Barnett, back after a while, needs to get a win here. I reckon both guys probably want to get a win. Abbas Magomedov versus Bruno FAA. This is the next fight on the card, I would say. A relatively low-stakes matchup. Abbas Magomedov, I would say, definitely needs to win to show if he's going to be top 15 caliber, because he lost to Strickland in his second fight after smoking Dustin Stoltzfus. And so we're like, okay, you're somewhere in between bum number 50 ranked Dustin Stoltzfus and like number 5 at the time ranked Sean Strickland, who then went on to win the belt in his next fight. Then he loses a kind of lackluster, one-sided kind of fight against Caio Borralho, which we're like, Caio Borralho is solid. But then since then, Caio Borralho beat Cannonier. So Abbas's losses aren't aging badly at all, but he doesn't really have any key wins. Like, he beat Wally Alves and Dustin Stoltzfus. Like, those are 2 bums. Bruno FAA smoked Robocop, and then immediately got smoked by Ruzabov. So there's a weird line there, because I don't think Ruzabov is that good. But Bruno FAA, I don't think he's very good. This is not a prediction video. This is not a therapy session. I'm not going to be talking about my pick here. I am picking Abbas. But I think both guys kind of want to win to prove themselves as guys who could maybe do something in the middleweight division. Like, you don't want to be getting KO'd by Ruzabov. And then, also, he looked, even though he got a KO, he looked mid as fuck against Stoltzfus. I'm going to just say that. But Abbas, I think slightly more pressure on him. Maybe Bruno's always just going to be a fun guy. I don't think anyone rates Bruno that highly. But Abbas, I would say, wants to get the win here, just to maybe tell fans that, you know, I might have lost to Strickland and Caio, but that's the fucking number 1 and like number 5 guy in the world. Like, I'm still top 15 caliber. I don't think he is, even though I think he's going to beat Bruno FAA. But anyway, Abbas, Bruno, neither under like excessive pressure. But both definitely want to get a win here. Next up, we got Mateusz Rebecki versus Majtebek Oralbay. Now, this fight was a lightweight contest, but it's moved to a catchweight because Oralbay, I think, came in at 160, which is interesting. I think these guys are I think that's the move, is just tell your opponent you're going to miss weight and then get it agreed to a catchweight, and then you probably still have to give him money anyway. But like, it's a better look than showing up to the scale and being 5 pounds. Like, if Oralbay shows up 5 pounds over on the scale, that's like, oh, could that might, and without any notice to Rebecki, and Rebecki cuts to 155, like, that's bad, and that's like, oh, you might get cancelled, or that's a big fucking percentage of your purse. But if you can kind of just get agreed to a catchweight earlier, just be like, oh yeah, good enough to cut as much weight, they'll be like, okay, fine, probably give him extra money. But Oralbay, he's in the fans' good books. I don't think there's too much pressure on him. He does want to win here, obviously, to prove, or to try and take that next step towards becoming a top 15 lightweight, which I think everyone thinks he's gonna be. The winner over Brenner was solid, but he kind of went to a bit of a scrappy war with Brenner. Brenner in his next fight just got absolutely smoked by Alvarez, who also just got a fight booked against Drakkar Close, by the way. Great matchup. Big Joel Alvarez fan here. But Oralbay, he's solid. I think everyone likes Oralbay. He's promotable just with the meme of it. Like, it's funny. I'm not talking like I'm the most attractive guy in the world, but Majtebek Oralbay, I think we all agree he's not blessed genetically. But that's kind of the meme of it. He's just been able to kind of get a fan base off just looking like a caveman. Rebecki, though, bit of pressure on him because he got smoked in his last fight as a big favourite. Big favourite against Carlos Diego Ferreira. And lost to the veteran, lost to the older guy, the crafty vet, as Lucas Tracy would say. Tip of the cap. But I promise that's not the reason. But Rebecki, 19-2, that was his only loss in the UFC, right? But since then, It was his last fight, but he looked real good. He was beating up guys, smoked Ruzaboev, smoked Roosevelt Roberts, smoked, who else? Fucking someone else. I don't know. He took Nick Fiore to a decision, but yeah, he got kind of tuned up and didn't look that good against, what's his name? Fucking Carlos Diego Ferreira. So even though I think a lot of people think he's going to lose, so there's a bit less pressure taken off him, I think, and people's it's not like he was like a big prospect and then he loses and it was like, oh, it's kind of a fluky loss. Like, I think everyone just saw he just got cleanly outbeat and smoked by Carlos Diego Ferreira. I still think Rebecki's good, and I still think he could have a good showing and maybe get a win here. I'm not going to pick him, but I do think he does want to win if he's going to have any chance of keeping that sort of prospect narrative about him and keep the fans thinking that he's still like a guy at lightweight. Oralbay used to fight at welterweight, that's why I said that. But yeah, both guys, interesting kind of looking fellas. Both guys looking to get a win here to assert themselves as prospects at 155. But again, not too much pressure on either of them. Welterweight contest up next, though. We got RDA versus Jeff Neal. RDA, he's on a bit of a loss streak. Well, not a major loss streak, but he's losing. He's lost to Fazeev, he's lost to Gamrot, he's lost to, who else did he lose to? Oh, I'm missing one. Welterweight, Luque. He lost to Luque. Jeff Neal smoked Luque. But Jeff Neal's on a 2-fight loss streak to Shavkat and to Ian Gary. 2 undefeated guys, that's no shame there. Both pretty close fights, and obviously the Shavkat fight close until it wasn't. Ian Gary fight, close decision, pretty lackluster contest. I'd say Jeff Neal's under a bit more pressure because you kind of don't want to be losing to 40-year-old RDA. It's just not a good look. 32-16, 40-year-old RDA. It's just not the best look to be losing to him at this stage. And also as the ranked welterweight, you can't be losing. Like, Shavkat and Ian Gary's excusable. You can't be losing to RDA as how old's Jeff Neal? 34. That's around back end of the prime at welterweight. RDA's fucking 40. He turns 40 on fight night. So you can't be losing to RDA. If Jeff Neal's going to have any chance of getting any other top contender fights, maybe a Buckley fight, maybe a like a Gilbert Burns matchup or something, he needs to get the win here. If he loses, you're getting fed to fucking Carlos Prates next, buddy. So good luck. Dana, what's the question? Jeff Neal. He had a bit of a lackluster performance tonight. What do you think's next for him? What's the question? Jeff Neal? Yeah. Prates. Prates is gonna fucking kill him. Good luck, kid. Can't help you with that. But anyway, let's move on. Light heavyweight matchup between Ibo Aslan against Rafael Squa. How's my pronunciation there, my fellow Brazilians? Oh, I said fellow, I'm not Brazilian. But 11-0 Rafael Squa making his debut. Definitely wants to get the win here, make a big statement in the debut. I think that's always a thing. You always want to get the big win in the debut. Aslan, kind of he's carrying Turkey on his back, because he's the only Turkish martial artist in the fucking company. But 13-1. He had a kind of he smoked. It was a fun fight, but not lackluster as in boring, but lackluster performance, I would say, because he was kind of losing to Aslan and looking a bit mid. Not losing, but looking mid. And he was a guy that a lot of people were hyping up off Contender Series when he fought a couple of years, or last year or year before. And then since then, only obviously one fight, but not a great performance against Anton Tricali. Rafael Squa, not many people really know who he is. He's definitely got a chance to prove who he is and kind of put a stamp in the fans' minds. But neither guy under too much pressure. It's a bit of a prospecty kind of matchup, bit of a unproven kind of guy fight here. Probably just going to be explosive and someone's going to die, so it'll be good fun. But let's go to the main card. We got Sharaputin Magomedov against Armen Petrosyan. Now Shara, again, undefeated. UFC's kind of strapping the rocket to him. They're not really strapping the rocket to him yet. I think everyone thought they would, because they gave him Bruno Silva straight away. I think everyone's like, oh, they're going to give him a ranked opponent after that. Apparently, there was original rumors last year around the time, or earlier this year, when they were looking to go to Saudi in March, if you remember that. There was rumors that they were trying to book him versus Vittori, and I think everyone's like, whoa, Dagestani privilege much? But no, since then, he's gone bums. Anton Tricali, or Antonio Trocoli, I think his name, sorry. Very similar. And then Mikhail Olajaychik, who is now cut from the sport, cut from the promotion. Very upsetting. I felt bad. I saw his Instagram post. He's he posted a sad face emoji. It's I lost my job or some shit like that. I'm like, bro, I feel bad. Armen Petrosyan, no one really cares about him. Shara, the opponents are getting progressively less bum-like. But it's weird, because it started at Bruno Silva, who everyone viewed very highly. And he kind of tuned him up, but got taken down, looked a bit mid. I think Shara's kind of failed to just put on an incredible performance. He's looked good, don't get me wrong. He's looked solid. He's looked like a very capable, good martial artist. But he just hasn't looked incredible. He hasn't looked like an absolute fucking world beater. Which I think he needs to kind of do at some point. Now, I'm not saying he desperately needs to just KO Petrosyan. Petrosyan's a good fighter. Doesn't really get KO'd too often. But he needs to at least have a good dominant decision. And, at least kind of tune him up the whole time and not have any moments where he looks mid or has to grab the cage. So I'd say Shara, under a little bit of pressure, to obviously keep that O on his record, no losses, keep the win streak going. And then he says he wants to turn around and fight in Macau. So if he can kind of come out unscathed here, get a quick KO or just tune him up for 3 rounds and not get hurt too much, I'd love to see him fight in Macau. If you're going to fight bums, at least actively be fighting bums. Don't be like Talbot and fight bums once every fucking 6 months. Talbot fought fucking Nick Aguirre. I've got to separate those two words. Subbed him in a bit of a mid-performance, smoked Simon, and then fought, what's his name? Fucking Gamori, the Frenchie, in fucking June, and hasn't fought since. What's he doing? So if you're going to fight bums, at least be active and fight bums. So yeah, Shara obviously needs to have a good performance, I'd say. Petrosyan, no one really cares about him. Everyone's expecting him to lose. He'll keep his job after this, probably. He did lose to Vieira, though, so he doesn't want to get on too much of a loss streak, but he'll be fine. Featherweight matchup up next, Lerone Murphy against Dan Ige. 14-0 Lerone Murphy. Obviously, I forgot to mention Shara. I think I said 14-0 as well. Do a little gimmick parlay there. Call it Project 30-0 or some shit, or Project 30, because they're both, right now, the combined record 20-0, 28-0, sorry. Get 2 wins, 1 win each. That's 30-0. There you go. The Project 30 parlay. But him against Dan Ige, both guys, back end of the ranking kind of featherweights. Lerone Murphy coming off his best performance of his career against Barboza. Best performance in terms of highest level opponent he's ever faced. Dan Ige coming off a short notice fight against Lopez, which he really did not lose any stock. He gained stock, if anything. I might do a video on stock raising losses. Someone mentioned that the other day. Talk about Khalil Pereira, Dan Ige, Diego Lopez, that type of shit. But let me know in the comments if you want to see that video. But Lerone Murphy, A bit more pressure on him as the prospect. Dan Ige secured his job. Like, I would say, oh, maybe Dan Ige's at risk of getting cut or whatever. Like, if the Lopez fight hadn't happened. No, what am I saying? Before that, he was coming off a fucking flatline KO over Andre Fili. So, Dan Ige's always going to have a job. And after that Lopez step up, badass fucking moment there, he's always going to have a job with the UFC. He's not really under any pressure. No one views him as a guy who's going to make a title run. If he beats Lerone Murphy, he could probably justify a top 10 guy, which he's kind of been unable to get. He's always been getting like bottom end top 15 guys. If he loses this, you're probably looking at a fucking Gene Silva matchup, or I don't know, like a Jack Jenkins fight or some shit like that, or like a Sean Woodson matchup or something. I don't know. But Lerone Murphy definitely wants to get the win here to keep the streak going. Obviously, I keep saying that about all the undefeated guys. There's a lot of them on the card. But yeah, Lerone Murphy, good win against Barboza, but Barboza looked kind of washed. Dan Ige, if he goes out there and just whoops up Dan Ige 30-27, doesn't lose a round, he can hold that over. Like, he could say, look, I didn't lose a round to this guy. Lopez was looking gassed in the third, getting beaten up. I tuned this guy up. Obviously, it would be very different. I don't think anyone would buy into that narrative. But Lerone Murphy has a chance to sort of beat a guy who gave Lopez a tough fight, you know, assert himself as a top 10 guy, call out the Josh Emmets of the world, the Arnold Allen. I don't think he'd fight him, maybe. But call out the Yairs of the world, call out these kind of guys, and maybe get a big, like a Fight Night main event next. So yeah, a little bit of pressure on Lerone Murphy. I'd say you'd never want to lose the O. There's always a bit more pressure there. Dan Ige, he's got a job forever, but basically he's going to be in the... How old's Dan Ige? Dan Ige's only 33. Like, I thought he would be like 35 or some shit. Like, bro, he's going to be in the UFC till he's like 39, 40. So he'll be fine. He'll keep fighting. He'll win one, lose one. But he's not like Magny, who's winning one, losing one, and just shit. Like, Dan Ige wins one, and that one is a fucking highlight reel KO, and then the loss is like a decision. Like, I don't think he gets finished here. That would probably be the only real negative. Anyway, let's move on. Light heavyweight contest. Magomedov Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. I think Magomedov Ankalaev is probably under the most pressure of anyone on this card, because it's already very clear that the UFC does not want to give him a title shot. That has been made evident. Like, Dana White has supposedly told him, you got to make this shit entertaining, otherwise you ain't getting a title shot. That's what Dana's been saying. So that is very interesting, and that's a telltale sign that they do not want to give him a title shot. We've known this. That was evident with the booking of the Khalil fight. That was evident with, you know, how they treated Ankalaev after the draw against Blachowicz. They do not want this guy in another title fight, and they will look for any excuse to not give him a title shot. So if he goes out here and even has a split decision, kind of boring fight against Rakic, you know, Dana could go to the press conference and be like, what's it, Ankalaev title shot? No. I thought he lost. I thought Rakic won the fight. I thought it was a fucking robbery. And these judges, you know, we need to do something about this. I'm not going to fucking do anything, but we need to do something. That's what Dana's going to say. So Ankalaev cannot give him any excuse to discredit him, to like say no, he's not getting a title shot. Ankalaev needs to go out there and just smoke Rakic and KO him. And if he does that, then he should be getting a title shot. If not, though, if he loses, he's so cooked. And if he wins, but boringly, he's probably going to need one more. Like, if he wins a boring split decision, he's going to need one more. If he even though he shouldn't, he arguably should get a title shot already. But if he loses this, he's cooked. Say goodbye to any chance of getting a title shot. You ain't getting a title shot. Pereira's already kind of just discredited him, saying he's boring. I don't want to fight him. He's got no personality. He's not interesting. So yeah, Ankalaev definitely needs to show out here, have a good moment. But I don't know if he will, because I think Rakic, I'll talk about him now, I think Rakic is not under that much pressure, which I think is going to cause him to fight better. You know, he got the nerves out. I know he lost his last fight to Yuri, but at least he got the nerves out of the way coming back after the injury. You know, maybe he had some doubts. He's like, he probably wasn't as confident in himself. But he looked real good. He was tuning up Yuri, and now he's probably confident. He's like, I can come in here and spoil the party for this dude and steal a title shot. And I think he's got a really good chance of doing it, and I don't think the odds are right. I don't think he should be a fucking plus 300 underdog. But Alexander Rakic, you know, solid fighter. I think he could actually... I'm picking him to win. I'm saying that. I'm picking Rakic to get the W here. And if he does, that's amazing. He just jumps right in there after immediately losing to Yuri to potentially getting a title shot. Especially if he finishes Rakic, or finishes Ankalaev, sorry. That'd be great. If he loses, no biggie. Like, I mean, that will be 3 losses in a row on paper. But I think no one's really going to, like, count him out of a title shot if he loses to Ankalaev. I still think he could get one down the line. Probably not the best look for him. How old is he? He's 32. Both guys 32, so they got some time. But yeah, if he loses this, he's probably looking at like the winner of Gushkov and Johnny Walker or some shit, or maybe Khalil Roundtree. That could be a fight that we see. Maybe the winner of Ozdemir and Oldberg. But I think even the winner of Oldberg and Ozdemir, I think that the winner of that fight could even steal a title shot if one of them gets a nasty KO. If Ankalaev has a mid performance, so I think Ankalaev is not only under the pressure to win, but he's under the pressure to dominate. Rakic, I think, just needs to show up here and have a good shot, have a good performance, and surprise the fans. And immediately they're going to be like, "Lol, this guy beat Ankalaev. Just give him a title shot because it's funny." But yeah, both guys I'd say under a bit of pressure. Definitely Ankalaev under a lot more in my opinion. Co-main event though, Hobbit Whitaker against Khamzat Chimaev. Brother, I am not under any pressure. 13-0 undefeated. Inshallah, I win this fight. Alhamdulillah, fight for the belt by end of 2025. Whitaker, that's the most low effort fucking Dagestani impression ever. But Whitaker, I think both guys need to win here to kind of assert themselves into the conversation to get a title shot. I think that's definitely for sure. Whitaker, I think it's kind of his last chance. Like, he's been on a run. He's won 2 in a row. 2 in a row or 3 in a row? Lost to Dricus, beat Costa, beat Ikram. 2 in a row. And he arguably deserves it more than Strickland's just based off work and activity and like willingness to fight. And if he goes out there and just smokes Khamzat and tunes him up in the later rounds, fucking voila, you got a title shot. Like, and he deserves it. And if he goes out and smokes Khamzat, I know it's always I know Whitaker's talked about he doesn't like fighting in February because it's pretty close to Christmas, pretty close to the summer holidays. He's got kids, you know. He's a normal dude. So he might not end up fighting in February, but he could if they don't get Dricus and Sean booked. You never know. They could slide Whitaker in there and they might want an Aussie main eventing, especially if Topuria wins, who's literally said, I'm not fighting in Australia. They might not end up getting a Volk main event. They might have to do like a Volk Lopez co-main for the interim and then wait out until they do the winner of that in Spain against Ilya. And then they might just go like, all right, Whitaker, you slide right in there, get a title shot in Australia. Strickland, you don't have to fight. Don't worry, buddy. You can keep yapping on Twitter and wait. So that might end up being what happens. Khamzat, though, I also think he's under a lot of pressure because he has been out for so long. He's lost pretty much. He's not lost all of it, but he's losing a lot of the aura. You know, people are less viewing him as just this fucking destroyer of worlds. Now, if he goes out there and smokes Whitaker, then the talks start back up immediately of, yep, this guy's going to fucking win a belt. Alhamdulillah, this guy's the best fighter to ever exist. He's going to be a triple champion. You know, people were saying that after the fucking Li Jingliang fight. Crazy how beating Li Jingliang started conversations of Khamzat's going to become a triple champion. Absolutely nuts. Blachowicz was the champ at that time, by the way. Very, very interesting that people thought Khamzat Chimaev was going to beat Jan Blachowicz. Very interesting stuff. But regardless, I'm not going to talk about that. I do think he needs to win because even though he's undefeated, he's still going to be a star. Obviously, he won't be undefeated after that, but he's still going to have appeal to watch him fight. The mystique will go away. I think right now the thing carrying Khamzat is the undefeated. It is the 13-0. That's the thing that most undefeated fighters have just had to rely on. And not many of them have been able to sort of detach themselves from that and make themselves their own person. A lot of them are like, yeah, I'm undefeated. That's why you're watching me, because I'm undefeated. But not many guys have been able to separate themselves from that. Now, Khamzat kind of has, but since then, and since he's been out for so long, it's kind of drifted back to, oh yeah, he's just undefeated. Like, he's Khamzat, he's undefeated. And if he loses to Whitaker, he's no longer got that. Now he's just a Chechen dude with a beard who speaks in a funny accent. Like, what? We're going to see him probably fight once a year. Like, if he loses this and then takes another fucking year off, it's over. Like, it's cooked for Khamzat. He's just going to lose all of his star power. He's going to lose all of his fan base probably. And then people just won't be viewing him as that good. Now, even though losing to Whitaker should not make people view you as a bum, but it might. You know, that's how the fan base works apparently. So Whitaker, I think, needs to win to kind of... I don't think Whitaker's getting back to a title shot if he loses this. I think I'd love it for him, but I just think Whitaker's always kind of destined to be in second place. I think that's kind of the role he's been cursed with in his career, unfortunately. So yeah, that's Whitaker. Khamzat definitely needs to get the win here and just kind of remind the fans. You know, people forget, man, Khamzat Chimaev. Who does that to Li Jingliang? But yeah. Anyway, main event time. Ilia Topuria. Fucking look at the moon, folks. Take a look at the moon. Ilya Arturo, I grab him by the scruff of the neck. Ba 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 ba. Fucking slap the nails off him. Ilya Arturo. Anyway, 15-0. Again, doesn't want to lose the O. He's been talking a lot of shit, and fans will just never, because Holloway fans are very glazy, you know, not like Flukas, but they're very glazy. They love to just fucking gobble on Holloway, like, pause, but like they do. The fucking best is blessed comment section just pisses me off. The best boxer in the UFC, he's not the best boxer in the UFC. Maybe if he beats Topuria, there's a bit more of an argument, but you got 50-45 to have Volk on the feet. Sorry, buddy. But Ilya Arturo, fucking Osman, thoughts on Osman. Little mild, he's ahead. Anyway, anytime I say Ilya, I just default to Topuria and then Topuria, and then just default into a fucking shitty Conor impression. But yeah, he's definitely under pressure. Doesn't want to lose the belt in the first defense, because there is a bit of a narrative in the casual fans are like, oh yeah, Volk was just not in a good way after the Islam fight, and Ilya capitalized on that, but he's not that good. Holloway's going to tune him up. I think most of the predictors are picking Topuria. I know Bedtime's picking Holloway. Bedtime doesn't like Ilya. I think he's kind of biased in that prediction, to be honest. No hate though. But Ilya, I think he's going to win, but it definitely is. There's no debate. Both of these guys under immense pressure. Holloway under less, I would say, because Holloway's kind of cemented himself. Holloway, he's always going to be a fan favorite. He's always going to be a legend. He's going to just go up to lightweight and fucking fight Gaethje again, or fight, probably not Gaethje, but he might fight Holloway. He might fight Poirier. It's fucking 11:30 p.m. right now. I'm recording this. I've got to look what happens if I turn this light off. Ooh, can't see me. Thought I'm black. No, but sorry, I just wanted to. Yeah, it's fucking really late here. Just got back from work. But Holloway, he's just gonna go up to fucking lightweight and fight those guys there. Fight Oliveira, fight Chandler, fight Poirier, fight fucking Gaethje, Dan Hooker. I don't know. He can just fight all those guys at lightweight and have money fights. And unless he gets flatlined, like if he loses a 49-46 decision, I don't think Holloway's going to lose too much stock. It'll bump him down a couple places on the GOAT list, probably, you know. Flukas will be coming out with a video saying Holloway is no longer top 10 after literally saying he's like top 6 after UFC 300. But that's okay. But I don't think Holloway's under too much pressure. I think he'll do alright. Ilya Arturo, fucking little midget, fucking, why is that little retard, Artem Lobov? Yeah, both guys under a little bit of pressure. Probably one of the most anticipated title fights of the year. Probably one of the most like pressure-filled. Both guys need the win. Both guys really desperately want it. But I do think Ilya's under a bit more pressure here. But anyway, I've yapped for long enough. That'll do it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow my Instagram at LeftLaneMMA. Subscribe to my second channel as well in case I get banned. Go watch, also subscribe to Right Lane MMA. He's a random Brazilian guy. Ooh, vamos here, that made a fucking clip channel of me. And he recently made a video about Rigo, because Rigo's been yapping and fucking running his mouth like a little rat, a weasel. I'll slap the nails off him. Anyway, Rigo, I challenge you to a fight. But, I'm serious. But anyway, let's move on. That's the end of the video. I'll stop fucking yapping. Goodbye. See you later.